A very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us on platform. I am Ruth Aguele. Now, today we have brought an important issue on the platform, and tertiary education has been described as one critical component for human development. Now, which brings us to the National Universities Commission, which was established in 1962 as an advisory agency, in the Cabinet Office to checkmate, promote quality higher education in the country. Now, since its establishment, the Commission has transformed from a small office in a Cabinet Office to an important arm of government in ensuring that the development and management of higher education is intact. Now, its key objectives, talking about the NUC, is to advise the executive on the financial needs of universities, coordinate the development of universities in Nigeria, allocate and disburse federal grants and external aids to universities, advise executive on creation of degree-granting institutions. Now, with over 172 universities and 79 privately owned, and with a total population enrollment of slightly more than 2 million in the entire university system, that is 1% of the estimated 200 million population of Nigeria. There are challenges, of course, that is the NUC is always being confronted with presently, which require the review of the NUC laws, the FG and ASU negotiations with the university-based unions and degree mills. I'm talking about illegal universities. All of that we're going to delve into. But today on the program, we're posing the questions that will readily come to mind. How do we ensure quality higher education in the country? So we want to examine the administration of tertiary universities in Nigeria, challenges and projection. And we have no other person than the man in charge, Professor Abubakar Adamu Rashid, the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission. I'll read out a bit of his profile for you. He's a professor of English and former Vice Chancellor of Bayero University, Kano. Professor Rashid became the Vice Chancellor of Bayero University in 2010, a position which he held till 2015. And on August 3rd, 2016, he was appointed Executive Secretary of National Universities Commission, and he's still holding that position. Professor Rashid obtained his bachelor's degree in arts from Bayero University, Kano, Masters in Arts from University of Nottingham, and PhD from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He has garnered a wealth of experience which is needed in moving the Commission forward. NUC, as a big organization within the confines of the Nigerian university system, working to improve the entire system is the ultimate goal. And like I stated earlier, so we want to look at the administration of Nigeria's tertiary education, challenges and way forward. And I won't be the only one doing that. I have two panelists here joined us. Let me start by introducing Mr. Chuks Ukwatu. He's a senior editor with CNA News, that is Channel Network Africa. We're pleased to have you join us.
Thank you for having me.
And we also have our very own Rashidat Mustafa Olagunji. She's the head of Education Desk in NTA. Thank you very much for joining us, Rashidat.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Prof, welcome to Platform.
Thank you very much.
We're pleased to have you here. Now, let's begin this way. Where are we now, rather, as a nation, when we're talking revitalizing our higher education system in Nigeria?
We, as a commission, realized some 3 years ago that university system will need serious revitalization in order to keep it moving along with the economy, in order to help in the smooth transition of Nigeria from a resource-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. We can never move successfully to a knowledge-based society without improving our own university system. So the first thing we did in the last 3 years was to establish an advisory committee of experts in higher education, people who have either served in the past as executive secretaries of the commission, or vice chancellors, or ministers of education, or who have held some key positions. And we since have been meeting with them regularly and exchanging views. After about a year of very serious and close interactions with the critical stakeholders in the university system, and that is to say, all the vice chancellors of the universities, all the pro-chancellors, the key principal officers, students' union leaders, some leaders of industries.
Okay.
We arrived at a draft blueprint for revitalizing Nigerian university system.
Are you talking about the curriculum now? Because I know there's a draft review.
The curriculum is one of 10 key strategic goals that the blueprint sets out to address.
Okay.
Curriculum is one of them, and of course is central to all the other 10 goals, because the blueprint itself, which was developed, as I say, as a result of an interaction of the commission, its own advisory committee with the entire critical stakeholders in the system, produced the blueprint, and then we gave this blueprint draft to the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, who constituted committees to look at various aspects of the blueprint as it affects the private sector, particularly industries in the country, to give us their feedback. We produce graduates. Normally, they absorb them. So we want to get the feedback from the employers, particularly in the private sector, of the skills they feel are now missing in our university education. And they gave us very helpful and useful feedback on the blueprint. We also interacted with several international development partners, the World Bank, the British Council, the DFID, a number of UK Quality Assurance Agency.
Okay.
They all commented on their own side, because we are guided by one thing or two things. One, that a university, wherever it is, particularly our universities in Nigeria, are necessarily international organs. They have to serve the international dimension at one level. Two, they also have to be relevant to our own local needs, Nigeria needs. So in getting this blueprint, we thought we would get inputs from home and inputs from abroad, because at the end of the day, the products we produce, many of them end up abroad, either for pursuit of higher education or even for employment. We produce graduates who can be relevant to Nigeria and relevant to the international community.
And even to themselves, because
Of
it will be the pride of the nation to have a graduate say, I am a product of a Nigerian tertiary institution. So let's allow our panelists come in.
In all this, Prof, with all this synergy and all this coming together, how have we been able to move the tertiary institution forward in Nigeria?
Well, the blueprint itself has a lifespan of 5 years, from 2019 to the end of 2023. And when we now held a final meeting to validate the draft and got it approved, we looked at the strategic goals of that draft. One of the goals is to re-engineer the curriculum, because we now realize that in many of the universities, the curriculum has remained the same for the last 30 years, in spite of all the changes going on in the world. And we are very much aware that in some disciplines, like mass communication or IT, if you don't review curriculum in 3 years or 5 years, you'll be feeding students with a very cold diet. It will not go. So we looked at the curriculum as one of the key goals we want to achieve, and we set out the middle of 2019 to the middle of 2020 to complete a total re-engineering, total review, as well as develop new curricula for new programs in the country. But we have now gone through about 2 different stages. We have sent copies of the existing curricula to all the university senates, and we have requested them to study them and send back, because they have been teaching this. Let us get their own inputs towards improving or rewriting the set of curricula. We have also sent the same to our other critical stakeholders. To the industries, we have selected, the Economic Summit Group have selected some companies and so on, and got their input, say, in engineering, in chemical engineering, in industrial chemistry, in any other inputs. What are those skills, modern skills or 21st century skills that are required, are needed for the Nigerian graduates to acquire? So we have now collected and we have collated these responses. We are now moving, right now in this quarter, to the second critical stage, and that is where we are now identifying some well-equipped, very competent academics and non-academics, because in this business of the curriculum review for 21st century, we believe that the university curriculum, we cannot just leave them with the universities alone to draw. This is something that affects the life of everybody. And so we are now assembling different professional and academic groups. And we will do that in this February, March, to look at various courses, various programs, get their inputs, detailed inputs, before we move to the last bit, where we will now assemble specialists in curriculum development who will now sensitize everything and come up with a final draft of the curriculum. We shall bring in all people. When we come to mass communication, for example, when we unbundle the curriculum finally and complete it, we shall bring the professors and other academics from the universities. We shall also bring professionals from television, from radio, from newspapers, from others.
It's supposed to have started the session, but I want to know, do we have the manpower and the technical support to actually carry out this unbundling?
Secondly, plus, I think there's been this misconception about this unbundling process. Maybe you just have a point to clear the air.
Well,
especially with the students.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Are they prepared?
Oh, very interesting. Well, I don't know. Well, I'm in NTA, so mass communication is of special
interest to us. Yeah.
Well, one of the most important courses in arts, in humanities, is mass communication, in social sciences. It's mass communication. And for mass communication, we got the support of MacArthur Foundation early last year through Bayero University, Kano, to start the process of the unbundling. And Bayero University, under Professor Omar Pati, assembled all the critical stakeholders in the communication, and they worked and they sent in the draft to us. Actually, we could have finalized it and released it, but because we are undertaking a comprehensive review of all the programs, the curricula of all the programs in the country, not just that of MASCOM. That's why we now say, look, let us not isolate MASCOM alone and treat it alone. So we are now bringing it together. But the unbundling is not something new. I mean, yes, there is a program called mass communication, and there will continue to be a program called mass communication in Nigerian universities. But then there are certain programs or courses within the MASCOM that have now emerged as independent courses in many universities. Take public relations, for example. marketing communication, for example.
Advertising.
Advertising, for example. Strategic communication, for example. So photography as a degree course.
Journalism stands.
Journalism. Broadcast journalism can be print journalism. We can give journalism as a course. In fact, that's why it's unfair to say it will be broken down into 5 or 6. But for the current one, we want to see the advice that will come from the specialists. We are envisaging about 7, 8 programs that may emerge, but we shall still retain a program degree in advertising. The market will be ready. If they are looking for someone in advertising, he would have had more exposure, more competence to easily walk in and get little training to fit in. So the unbundling will continue to go on side by side. The unbundled programs will continue to go on side by side.
But you know, this is, I must say, it's a commendable initiative, because people who studied mass comm back then didn't have this privilege to explore some of these means. But the concerns for some universities is the funding.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, and funding, you see, funding is something that, one, when we unbundle the program, we are not going to impose this to all universities. First, every university is free to look at its resources, to look at its facilities, its state of readiness, and then select what it wants to introduce. All we want is, when you think you are ready, then you shall invite NUC to send in what we call resource verifiers, who will go to verify your physical resources, your academic resources, and others, to ensure that you have it before we give you the go-ahead. So while mass comm, if it is unbundled, can become a full faculty. So if a university is interested, it can establish a faculty of mass communications with various degree programs, possibly as many as 7, 8, 9 degree programs within the faculty. Those that are not interested or are not competent, financially, can start by selecting 1 or 2 of these, and you can get them in social sciences.
So it's a gradual process.
It's a gradual process for some, but many universities are ready to go on. And don't forget,
for those that are not ready, is a gradual thing. It's nothing to
in fact, there are many universities, nearly more than half of them in the country, do not have mass communication programs. Nobody will impose.
Because I remember back then, I wanted to study mass comm, but I was only offered English. That was Nasarawa. So along the line, it was introduced.
And it's very good you studied English.
Okay, Prof. It's a product of maybe interface between the NUC and the economic Summit group, talking about linking the academia to the industries. Okay, what do the students stand to benefit in this process?
Very well. Very good. You see, today education is not just about knowledge. In the past, we used to see universities as ivory towers. The academics will just think, some people say, knowledge for knowledge's sake. Today, we are more or less teaching skills, imparting skills to students in order to cope with the challenges of the 21st century. Students will be the main beneficiaries of this. You know, there is a program going on for years called SIWES, Students Industrial Work Experience, which is supposed to expose students to the experience of the workplace while they are within the classroom experience. So, because we now see that the two worlds are becoming wider. The world of the classroom, which is more or less becoming more theoretical, and the world of the workplace, which is more practical. So the relationship between the NUC and, by extension, the Nigerian university system and the National Economic Summit Group will seek to, among other things, create more rooms in the industries when we say industries, we make mistakes here in Nigeria. We think the industry means either Dangote industry or MPs. No. We have several industries. I was telling some vice chancellors, people studying automotive engineering or mechanical engineering, I mean, you can get some of good mechanics, and attach some of your students for 3 months, for 2 months, to study, to work and see how these people, they will get experience. Yes. In the construction industry, you don't need to go to Julius Berger alone or others. There are several small companies putting up structures all over. If universities identify, this is what we are now working with the National Economic System Group, trying to agree, so that not only the students, even their lecturers, because we think that it will not augur well for the system if a lecturer, say of chemical or petroleum engineering, spends 30 years in the classroom
without practical,
without ever going to the rig, going to work and see drilling of the oil and so on. So we feel that sabbatical for academic staff should be slightly reinvented.
And talking about this academic staff, talking about the lecturers, recently the commission disclosed that there were about 100 fake professors discovered. Now, if we have to bring out products, talking about these students now, who will be, leaders of tomorrow in society, what are they getting inside the four walls of the university?
Well,
what is the commission?
I think there is something, you see, normally we are very much interested in some, I would say, sensationalizing issues. You see, the university system currently has 67,000 academics, teachers. I just want you to see the quantum of 100 against 67,000 academics, out of which 10,237, as at the end of last year, are full professors in Nigerian university system. 10,100. So what the fake professors we talk about are actually, they have already been removed from our directorate.
Okay.
What do we mean by fake professors? Some, when we were compiling the directorate of professors in Nigerian university system, we spelled out clearly a full professor, what a full professor means. So if you are not a full professor and you smuggle your name in, the vice chancellor removes you. But that is just one side. We also notice that there are many universities, particularly private universities and so on, who are fond of appointing people who have not met the minimum requirement for becoming professors. Somebody who has had no experience in the university system, or not taught for even 3 years or 4 years, simply because he is either related to the owner of the university, or because he has helped the university is big and he has taken a PhD, whether the PhD is a professional PhD or is an academic PhD, moves in whether he has publications, right publications or not. Some of them just go on appointing these professors. We have met with all the vice chancellors. We have warned them. We have told them to dust up all this, because this year, 2020, the NUC will send in teams to visit the universities, and we are going to look at the files. We want to see the career history of people who are professors. We are not saying that you must start in the university. No. We give some of you, after leaving office or somewhere, when you want to move to the university, we recognize you shouldn't go through the process of this. You can get the professorship in shorter period. You have the experience. So, but we are interested. There are some agencies who are not empowered by law to award professorships or to confer professorships on anybody.
Agencies or institutions?
Like institutions, like some inter-university centers.
Yes. And
they have no business.
I know there's a critical role for the Senate of each university to play. Precisely.
We now say any institution that has no Senate has no business conferring a professorship, because a professorship is a chair in the Senate of a university. So if you are in an inter-university center or a research center, not attached to a university, you can't promote somebody to a professor. If you promote, we call that fake professor. Okay. Because you have to, the person can go on sabbatical to a university, showcase his credentials, and if the university finds her appointable to professor, can appoint such a person, and that person can come back to the research center and answer the name of professor. But if you don't have a senate, you have no business appointing a professor. If you appoint one, they are fake.
Recently, we still have these issues of our students going outside the shores of Nigeria within 3 to 6 months and coming back with a degree.
That's right.
Yes. What is the commission doing about this, and what is actually responsible for this?
Thank you very much. You see, this is very disturbing scenario for us. It's a very, very terrible thing. The truth is, many of them only claim to even have gone to some areas like Benin Republic, also to say they have gotten the degrees. In reality, we have found out that many of these people who claim to have gone don't even have passports. They haven't gone anywhere. There are these illegal degree mills in Nigeria, many of them with some association with foreign universities coming to hire a 2-bedroom flat, 3-bedroom flat, and the dupe Nigerians, give them degrees in 6 months, in 1 year. The Director General of NYSC came to me and we compared notes, and we are now constituting a panel. Actually, the ministry, it has even now gone beyond the two of us. I think just last week I received a letter from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture for an interministerial committee to look at this issue. We as a commission are working with EFCC, working with ICPC in particular, to continue to fight the illegal institutions or degree mills in this country. Many parents, we blame the parents, we blame the students. Many of these students know, and the parents know, that it takes a minimum of 4 years after secondary education to earn a degree. How would you feel when your son or your daughter says there's a university that will give me a degree in 1 year?
Is it out of desperation? Because we have a lot of young people who just want to go to school.
That brings us to the issue of carrying capacity, Prof.
Yes.
What are we doing to enhance our carrying capacity in Nigeria?
Well, you see, as she said in the preamble, we have 172 universities with a total enrollment from level 1 to the last level, including postgraduate PhD students. We have 2,041,000 students entirely, which, as again she says, represents 1% of the total population. Yeah, that is why in the blueprint, the first challenge, the first strategic goals in the blueprint is access. How do we work to increase this access within 5 years by at least 30%? At least 30%. We hope to make it at least 50% within 5 years. Now, it is not just for us to decree to say, okay, University of Abuja, please, we double your intakes, because we don't want this mass production without quality. Our second strategic goal in the blueprint is to ensure quality. And quality and access can clash. If you don't control the access carefully, you will end up returning to the era in the past where we were joking that some classrooms, there are some lectures, they say lectures by rumors, where a class of 1,000 students will be sent to a room capable of taking only 150. Majority of the students will be outside the classroom. and will only be asking when there is a laughter in the class, what did the teacher say? And before they transmit it, it will be something else. So in reality, the issue of access is a very serious one. But we also feel the higher education climate, the ecosystem itself, needs to be re-examined. It's not necessary for everybody to earn a university degree. In a country like Finland, which has the best university education system in the country,
In the world.
in the world, I mean in the whole world, up to 44% also of their secondary school students end up in craft schools also, to learn skills. They don't go to universities. China, that has the largest number of students because they are the largest country, we are busy from last year through this year changing the status of, or converting about 600 of their universities into polytechnics. Now, what I'm saying is, we have our tertiary university, our tertiary system in this country has universities, has polytechnics, has colleges of education, and monotechnics and other enterprise institutions. There is a craze. Almost everybody wants to go to university. Now, if all the 1.8 million, nearly 2 million students who write JAM in a year want to end up in the university right now, it will be difficult because the space is not there. We have the carrying capacity currently of about 500,000. We have about 500,000 in the entire this. And the entire 79 private universities in the country have a carrying capacity of only about 6%.
That's a deficit.
I mean, not the carrying capacity, the enrollment.
Enrollment.
They have the carrying capacity of about 20% of the university system. But the enrollment is only 6%, partly because parents may not be able to afford the fees. Yes, as affordability. Otherwise, more and more can go to private universities. The public universities, the federal ones are the ones having nearly 50% of the total, around 60%, 61% of the total populations are in the federal universities. Few months ago, last year, this government established a Federal University of Medical Sciences in Otukpo, and a lot is going on now. We are waiting for the approval of the appointment of the principal officers and the council for the university to properly take off. Another university was established by the federal government just a few months ago, a Federal University of Agriculture in Zuru, in Kebbi State.
One of the states is trying to key into that having that medical school.
It is the medical university. The federal government has established a university in the Benue State. It's a full university of medical sciences. It is the university number 4, I think, in medical sciences. We have the Ondo State University of Medical Science as the first one. We have the PAMO, a private university in Port Harcourt, PAMO University of Medical Science, and we have the ECO University of Health Sciences in Lagos. Now they have acquired the ECO Hospital in Lagos. So the federal government has established another medical university in Otukpo in Benue State. But the commission is now working on a proposal, and we are going to constitute a committee very soon to look at some of our key hospitals, like the National Hospital Abuja, and see how we can recommend the establishment of academic wing so that the hospital can turn into a teaching hospital, and
Just like
we can have
Yes, sir, still on
for University of Abuja. Yes. So when you have several medical centers, if they have the staff, they have the necessary departments, we feel the best way to address the shortage of lecturers, teachers and students in medicine is to use the teaching hospitals and build academic wings attached to them. If they satisfy the requirements, we are going to address it. Because if you know how many students. I think in medicine, less than 5% of students who apply to read medicine get admission in Nigeria.
Okay, Prof, talking about establishment of more institutions, there's this recent concern raised by TED Fund, as a concerned state government that just establishing institutions, probably because of the funds they get from allocations from TED Fund, during establishment, there's nothing like enough funds for you to like put up infrastructure. Does NUC have any form of regulation as regards this?
Yes, thank you very much. You see, TED Fund and NUC has always been represented in TED Fund and the board as a member. TED Fund has noticed in one of its meetings last year that many state governments establish universities from the perspective of TED Fund purely because TED Fund is available. They hardly bring in money for physical development. So TED Fund has now decided to say, look, tell us if you want to establish 20, establish 20, but we are only going to fund one. So that's the thing. But for NUC, you see, sometimes this is the serious challenge we find ourselves in. At one side, everybody wants us to address the issue of access. Only 1% of our population is in university. Please let us have more students in. How do we have more students in? Some stakeholders feel that it is not in increasing the number of universities, it's in expanding the capacities of the existing universities. Instead of having more universities, you can expand the existing universities and let them, within the next few years, double their intakes if they provide more facilities. Other things that it's not good to be having very large, very big universities. That's why we have so many problems and so on. Let's have smaller universities. Let's have as many as possible, provided they'll be properly monitored, well managed. They can come up to become centers of excellence in few years. At the same time, the private universities, if they are well monitored in the country, they don't cost government money. It is people, organizations, churches, mosques, or individuals who want to pay back to the society, who think that, okay, I want to establish a university. Ours is to say, look, we have 14-step stages. If you can satisfy these 14 steps, and we will send recommendations to Federal Executive Council to register this university. Then it is our duty to ensure that quality is ensured and assured at all times through accreditation processes, resource verification, some visits, unannounced visits. We just constituted, just last year, NUC constituted 72 teams to go to universities in this country and look at the students' facilities, their hostels, their toilets, their sporting facilities. And it's very terrible. We have now written very serious letters to all the concerned universities and warn them that they have to improve because we are coming back. Otherwise, we may be forced to recommend the shutting down. We may close down some of those universities if they do not improve on a number of facilities.
In follow-up to what Chooks asked earlier, talking about the TED Fund.
That's right.
Yes. Now, if we're also, yes, it's a good initiative the NUC is doing, putting these universities in check in terms of their facilities. But another aspect they're lagging behind is in the area of research.
That's right.
Which will help to promote invention and innovations. That is really lacking. There's no funding for research. Now, if these universities solely rely on TED Fund,
you are right.
Don't they generate revenue on their own? There are grants, there are donations.
Thank you very much. I think I'm very happy. I mean, this is like a university senate. You are all professors in this area. You see, I'm very happy because you are linking this issue with TED Fund again. TED Fund. Particularly the current executive secretary has prioritized the issue of research in universities. The establishment of centers of excellence by TED Fund, as well as supporting research fund. The board increased the research grants of approved about 5 billion last year. The president approved 5 billion, and TED Fund, a committee under Professor Bamiro, was working, receiving proposals from the universities. You have rightly said it. The truth is, research of the three major functions of any university in this country, teaching, research, and community service, research seems to have been the most neglected. Partly because our universities started in the 60s, generally to produce manpower to replace the departing colonialists. So the focus of our universities was in teaching, not much in research. But then there are also additional challenges. One, researchers are not funded, universities do not get funds, and it's one area why we have signed the MOU with Nigerian Economic Summit Group. We challenge the Economic Summit Group to say, look, when we go abroad, universities tell us how much they receive from companies, pharmaceutical firms, engineering firms, also supporting universities to carry out more research. I say here in Nigeria, unfortunately, we have not yet seen a company that has donated money or research equipment to Nigerian universities, or that has now come to support. You see, or initiated research. You see, we are getting very worried that many of our researchers are not very relevant to the challenges in this country. We want to see research more in the areas of malaria, climate change, some of the diseases we have in agriculture. How do we move away from the traditional way of farming in most of our areas? How do we embrace this? How do we get better seeds? How do we get our animals, particularly our cows, to produce more milk? One cow in Israel can give you the equivalent of 10 cows or 12 cows in Nigeria every day in milk. It's through research. Our industries, our governments, and others need to do more to support research. But then, our universities also need to demonstrate capacity to utilize these research funds with the transparency, accountability properly. We have already directed all universities that have not yet established directorates of research to do so. And we believe before the end of this quarter, every university in Nigeria will have a full directorate of research, innovation, and so on, so that we can begin to look at research management and begin to define the needs of the university, the needs of the community, the needs of the country.
Still on these research issues, I think many Nigerian universities are beneficiaries of the World Bank funded centers of excellence. You know, they've been in existence. Have there been any immediate gains from these centers?
I'm sure you know there are. There have been. I'm happy to come back to this issue of, to come to the issue of ACE, as African Centers of Excellence. They are regional centers. And you know, they started about 5-6 years ago with 22 centers initially in Africa, 10 of them in Nigeria, and in 3 key areas: agriculture, health, and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, the centers did so well because in the last 5 years, we have produced over 1,000 PhDs in these centers, several master's degrees in these centers, and trained, short trainings. Thousands, scores of thousands have been trained for a week, for 2 weeks, and so on. We did so well that the World Bank, the second round, conducted another exercise and we succeeded in getting 7 more centers of excellence to add to the 10. So we now have 17 active centers of excellence. We have added the area of pedagogy now. There is a center in engineering pedagogy, a center in IT pedagogy, and so on, in addition to the others. And then finally, there is the last set of centers of excellence coming in on procurement, sustainable procurement, environment, and social standards. And 6 centers have been selected on competitive basis, but 1 from each geopolitical zone in the country. And they are going to benefit from an 80 million World Bank loan that will now be disbursed. Of course, NUC will continue to be the secretariat, but the centers will each earn about $11 million each.
I know Rashidat has a final question, but briefly, Prof, you have to
Thank you.
Okay.
Administration of tertiary institution in Nigeria involves accreditation and monitoring. How is the Commission ensuring that we have all this in place and we do the right thing?
Well,
Should I add my final question so you round it off together? Also, the increase of tuition fees in universities, what is NUC going to do to address that this year and subsequently? And also FG and ASU, synergy.
Thank you very
So
much.
just round it off for us.
Well, let me start with from the middle. The increase in tuition fees. First, just to correct an impression, the private universities charge tuition fees because they are private. And we only advise them, the market is regulating them. If you overprice yourself, you will have no student. State universities, some do charge fees because the state governments do not fund them properly, some. But all federal universities, all the 45 federal universities in Nigeria do not charge tuition fees for undergraduate studies. They don't charge tuition fees. They do charge what they call registration
Acceptance.
fees. But the acceptance, we have received a communication from the Senate and from the National Assembly. And we have communicated to all universities in the country to stop charging acceptance fee henceforth. There is no question of acceptance fee again. We have now written last week, and we are going to monitor this. There should be no acceptance fee. Whether it is 5,000 or 50,000, nobody should charge acceptance fee again. But of course, we also notice one thing. The universities are underfunded. We should be very careful not to kill the universities in trying to now say this. We are complying on this, but we also want the general public in this country, especially those who matter, to know that compared with our contemporaries outside, if you want Nigerian universities to compete favorably with universities in other countries, even in Egypt or South Africa or Kenya, then we need to do more to get it.
The other questions, very briefly. I'm talking about ASU, FG, Synergy, and Russia.
The Minister of Education chaired a meeting between ASU and the ministry on the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, and we are confident that a number of issues have been resolved, and by the end of next month, the whole agreement will be, the negotiation will be completed. So government is talking to ASU, ASU is talking to government. Some of the universities do not have matters. When you now, government says don't charge tuition fees, and government is funding, paying 100% of salaries, no federal university will complain that there was a shortage of salary last year. Everybody gets full salaries, hundreds of billions of naira being spent to pay salaries, and government augments, gives something, and what they call the overhead. The overhead, but of course the overhead will never be adequate. If you give a university 10 million or 20 million in a month, when a university like ABU has 62,000 students, 3,000 academics, 8,000 non-teaching staff with hundreds or thousands of buildings, and you give them 10 million or 15 million as overhead, you know that will not work.
All right,
So
Prof, I know you want to go on. There's so much to talk about when it comes to our tertiary education in Nigeria. We definitely will continue this some other time, hopefully.
You very much.
But we want to appreciate you for all your contributions.
I also
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you. Thank you very much for your very provocative questions sometimes. Very
This has
interrogative,
been quite
very
insightful. Thank you very much. Our guest has been Professor Abubakar Rashid. He's the Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission. And I also want to thank our panelists, Chuks Ukwatu, Senior Editor, Channel Network Africa, that is CNN News. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
your
very much.
contributions. And our very own Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju. Thank you so much. She's the head of education desk here in NTA. We do appreciate your contribution. So we have been discussing administration of tertiary education in Nigeria, challenges and projection. The year is just starting. There is so much prospect, according to Prof, that Nigerian institution will definitely experience this year. When we're talking quality education, it is a collective responsibility. Each and every one of us have a role to play, and it is work in progress. So keep our fingers crossed, and thank you so much for being a part of the platform today. I am Ruth Aguele. See you some other time. Bye.